I think what my friend was telling me, people should these people, like the decision makers, they should be way more open about their lack of understanding or lack of knowledge, and be open about it and say, I don't know, can you explain this?
Mm,
And that will build trust. That will build trust because the people
mm.
explaining and the other people saying, okay, now I'm understanding, and that mutual communication or trust is paramount.
Hey nerds, Monica here. Welcome to the Data Podcast for Nerds, where we get to talk to amazing professionals and ask them all about how they use data to solve the world's problems. We're highlighting all the fun skills that data professionals use, and of course, we always include some fun bits because we're all nerds here and we love to have fun. So today with us, we have Carlos Barboza. How are you doing today, Carlos?
I'm doing great, Monica. Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. You extended the opportunity, the offer, like, a while back, and I you actually, well, I'm returning the favor or maybe the invitation because I had you on my on my conversation YouTube channel, Slack. I guess it's still like a small humble project, but yeah, having these conversations is always for me, it's very nurturing. You get to know the person, but you get to know the soul. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And the data community is just like such a great community, in my opinion.
It is, it is. But sometimes I think, like for example, LinkedIn, you get. It has happened to me many times that you get like a false impression of somebody on LinkedIn, checking out the photo and the name and what they comment and stuff. And then when you go and talk to them on a video call like this, the person is way more, I guess, kind, less
Mm.
cold, more engaging, more like enthusiastic, and you're like, that's interesting because, and I don't know, I think we our minds make up so many ideas of somebody, and then they're completely turned down as soon as you get into a call with them, and a video call, and body language and all that, you kind of reveals more
Yeah.
of the soul than the person. And the data community, in my opinion, it can get a little bit elitist, a little bit elite, like there's gotta be some people that are like, oh, we cannot, we gotta be, we gotta look professional and we gotta look all this and that. But you know what? Like the hardcore data analysts, unlike you and me, they were like, look at the guy from Cambridge Analytica. He had the pink hair, and he was
Mm-hmm.
like, he was a big data scientist and everything. So it's like, yeah, we're the nerds, but we're really laid back. The ones doing the hard calculations, cleaning, the dirty work. We just regular folks, Yeah, yeah. We not may be corporate with the ties and all that, but yeah, we actually are the ones that do the work. So
Yeah. And it's hard work. You have to have fun somehow, right?
yeah, yeah. I tell people, like when I have to go and check out the spreadsheets of somebody else, I do my meditation. I get Buddha style. I just pray. You know, keep calm because there's some spreadsheets out there that I have to have a help that I tell my wife sometimes. She's like asking me, why are you so stressed out? And I'm like, this spreadsheet, this is crazy, this it's crazy what they did here and all that. And I'm like, but it's just a spreadsheet. No, it is like going inside a public bathroom, one of those from the concert, and cleaning them. That's what it feels like. That you have to do that job, which is
Yeah.
done. Some people do that job, and it's yeah, it is a job, but it's quite struggling. So yeah, at
Yeah.
least it will be for me, at least sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always love your analogies. They're so fun.
Yeah, I hope that people get the message, because like, yeah, some of them are really like, wow. Some people did some work that they didn't know about, basic database principles, data management. They do whatever they want, and that they're doing ad hoc and all this and that. But when it breaks, sometimes there's no return. You have to redo it if you really
Yeah,
want something to last, you know in the long run.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, before we get too far into our chat, I do want to first start off with understanding your background. We always start off by understanding people's origin stories, right? So, could you please let us know where you came from and how you got into data?
So I'm originally from Venezuela, um, and my parents are Peruvian. So I have a dual nationality, and I moved to the states back in 2004 in Connecticut. The reason because Venezuela elected a president that turned out to be really bad to what he promised. My father kind of envisioned that, so he sent me to the states to learn English. So I did my high school and I did college in Connecticut, everything in Connecticut, and I studied economics and finance. And I graduated in back in 2011. And I because I was an international student, I all the 8 years that I lived in the U.S. I was as international student with a F1 student visa. So I never got residency or citizenship. No, I was always as a they call it alien immigrant. So okay,
Mm,
after graduation, you only have 1 year to get a sponsorship. So somebody that kind of says, "We'll do your papers, we'll sponsor you," and if you get that, that's about 6 years until you can apply for citizenship. Unluckily, I graduated back in 2011, and that was 3 years after the financial crisis. Many companies in Connecticut didn't want to do the visa, so I didn't run the same luck as my sister and my brother.
mm,
Unfortunately, they did got lucky, um, but I didn't. So that year passed by, and I had to make a decision, or either I go back to school for an MBA or a master's, or I go back to either Venezuela or Peru. And Peru called my attention because I was planning to study to try to get into the Central Bank of Peru, which is very prestigious, very elite. To get in is really tough and competitive, and once you're in, you're pretty much making, yeah, a good career because it's very hard to get in. So I went and took the risk of coming to Peru, and then study really hard economics again, but I didn't get it. I didn't get it. So that was 3 months, and then potentially I was like, I'll go back to, I'll go back to the states. Because Peru and the states are very very different in terms of quality of life and many things. But in food, Peru is way better in terms of food. But while after I study, I got involved with a couch surfing community. I don't know if you know them.
mm.
Couchsurfing.com. It's
No.
like people who backpack, they through between countries. You kind of like host them for free. You show them around, and when you go back to their country, they return the favor. Although it doesn't have to be the exact people, but the intention.
Mm,
So I got involved with this community. So I started backpacking around Peru, and I got in love with the country, like the sightseeing, the people. So the 3 months extended, and until I got this was around when I got to Peru around August, and then I got in December. It was already 6 months, a bit less, and I got a job as a business analyst. That was my first gig professionally for the resume, like to say, because the other ones were internships, so that they didn't. I mean, they did count, but this one was the one that really put me to the trenches and like lead me to dirty data. At the time, I didn't know Power Query, but I had to learn array formulas in
mm,
Excel, which for a lot of people, the old school array formulas can be a little bit, yeah, it can be a little bit difficult because it's not intuitive, Boolean logic, and many other things, coercion, and all that. So, as my first job, I had to really get into it. Like, there was no, like, oh, no, no, like I had to learn array formulas. And that's how I came to appreciate Excel because it is really powerful that, to build stuff that, you can change a cell and then the whole workbook just automatically updates. And it happens to be that the workbook that I had to update was because the person who trained me, and I'm grateful to him, to Nestor, because he taught me array formulas. But then within the first 3 months that we were together, we were supposed to be how do you call this, a BI team, analytics
Mm.
team. But he left like immediately, like the fourth month of these projects started. So I was handed everything, and like they offered me, hey, do you want to take the, you want to continue the job? And I was like so frightened. I was really like, oh my god, like, and I say yes just to not, not look bad. But that led to even learn more array formulas on my own, learn SQL, cardinality, learn access, because the plays require, hey, we're not gonna play with Tableau, we're not gonna pay for SQL Server, Oracle, although we have it, but we're not gonna use those tools. Those tools are for the IT. I was like, you only have Excel, can you pull it out? And I'm like, yeah, no, okay. Luckily I pulled it out with Access and Excel and pivot tables and all that, and I got all the reporting. But that experience, like that first year and 8 months, was really, for me, I think it was very hardcore. And that's, I came to appreciate Excel. I came to appreciate what really that how data needs to be sort of managed tabularly, tabularly. SQL, SQL is king. I mean, people say SQL is dead, Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, not for now, I guess. I know now, there's new technologies based on documents, JSON, and many other things, but this book is paramount. This is the book that kind of like I borrow or stole the term guerrilla data analyst, because at the end, like I was, this is what happened. I was contrasting myself with what I did here. Then when I went to other people, other clients, or B2B clients of this company, they would talk about the cube, and I would get excited, and I'm like, MDX, cube and BI, and I would be very excited. I would like, oh my god, I'm gonna go see, all these multi-dimensional warehouse.
Mm.
But when I got to the meetings, it was just basically, I mean, they had a cube in SQL Server and all that, but the way they were consuming the info was just basically pivot tables. So I really like put myself. I really thought, like, really like badass and analytics. It was like another league.
Mm.
I thought they were gonna show a couple of R and Python at the same time. And Excel, maybe other languages. I kind of put the pedestal really high up. But then I noticed also that, yeah, only one in many of those teams is doing that. The other ones are more like project managers.
Mm.
And then the other thing that I kind of came to know is that I don't know if you agree with this, Monica, the paradox of analytics. Like, we make all these cubes, data warehouse, data marts, data lakes nowadays, that's how they call it. But at the end of the day, the king of all is export to Excel. Send me just a couple of rows on a spreadsheet. I'll validate and work on that. Something so big, and it just lands in a spreadsheet. So I noticed that back at this company because of the B2B clients. And then once I become a consultant, wow, that's when it really hit me. I thought that, yeah, now I'm gonna be facing R, Python, and all that. But you know what? Again, many of the decision makers out there, Excel is their best buddy. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. You said people are saying Excel or SQL is dead or dying, and it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
there's a lot of people that think Excel is dead or dying, and I'm like, no, there's so many people that use Excel still that it's just so large.
exactly. Exactly, and it's and and this is where I've been now reading more, and really the key word, or maybe is trust. Is
Mm.
building trust among data teams, like, and actually I'm talking about from the people who code and engineer pipelines all the way to the decision makers, knowing that the pipelines that they're doing is gonna provide some numbers, but those numbers are accurate.
Mm.
But what I noticed as a consultant, and also within the company too, because I was on myself. Like I had the IT team, but they were never like very like, they were always polite and everything, but they were never like, hey, come and sit down. What are you working on? They were like, no, no, we're doing our SQL thing, we're doing our Oracle thing, we're doing maintenance. We don't want to be playing with childish, Toy Story Excel stuff. That's kid stuff. Go. So I'm like, because that's what I felt, with them and with many other people. But then I started to meeting other people who are really like badass Excel users, and then I started feeling better about myself, I guess. But it came to be that, like, wow, like you can do so much with Excel, but also again, at the end of the day, we're doing this for decision making, decision support. Really is making action at the end. I mean, storytelling, yes, but that's in order to drive action, and decision. And what I notice is like, yeah, people want trust. Like, I want to trust that those numbers are right, because I'm about to make decision. Like, and if I make decision based on numbers that are flaky or not, the one paying the price is the managers and the manager of the manager, and then keep going up. And yeah, I have handled a couple of spreadsheets with big numbers that yeah, you can't like yeah, you can't say like, oh, I don't know, that number is, that's what, that was a subtotal. And no, you gotta like validate and revalidate and be revalidating. Excel is kind of friendly for that, unless you have less than 100 million rows. And also, that's the other thing. Myself was like, oh man, but people are talking about big data this, big data that, and I'm doing my Excel worksheet thing, kind of like feeling a little bit like, at that time, I'm talking about 2015, okay? And then when I went and talked to people who did data science, and I told them, yeah, we don't do millions, we do a couple of 100,000, for training our models and all that, but we don't do millions like a lot of people say. If you work at Twitter, if you work at Netflix, if you work at Amazon, yeah, they potentially are doing millions. But even so, when you're training models, so all this knowledge was combining myself, and then it kind of led to me like, yeah, we all are in different leagues, but at the end, Excel and small data sets, and decision makers are always, kind of like making decisions from. But I think what's very, maybe I have been jumping in a couple tangents. Sorry, Monica. Trust. That's what I would say. Trust. If there's trust in the data, action will take place. Yep.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. So now you're currently a consultant, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Independent. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I.
So
Yeah.
what are your favorite data problems to solve using Excel, of course?
Yeah, within the Excel space, it would be funny. I mean, really understanding the problem too, because a lot of people say, I want to do this, but then they show you either their data, their view on SQL, or maybe their data set on Power BI that they have pulled out, and you can see it. Mostly are now with Power BI. That's the trend now. Sometimes, Excel, if the data is like 100,000, maybe 300, maybe a couple of thousands, okay. But then they kind of, it's actually like conceptualizing what they're looking for.
Mm.
Sometimes that's what really takes, what I struggle sometimes the most. Once when the clients already know what they want, yeah, it's a breeze. Oh, you want this, okay, boom. And I want this measure, moving average, or I want, this divided by this ratio, because we measure this. And then I do ask, why do you do that and that, or what's the logic of that? And they're like, oh, because of this and that. Oh, okay, okay.
I was
But
just going to ask,
yeah.
how often do clients actually know what they want?
Oh, that's the other paradox. See, we're talking. See, is the thing that, like, when I started as an analyst, I was like, oh, I'm doing spreadsheets and formulas and my if formulas and all that, and these guys are doing Python and algorithms and neural networks and all that. But then I talk to them, and it's like, hey, how many neural networks have you implemented, or how many models? Like, I have done two in like a couple of years, and I'm like, really? It's like I would think you would done many more. Like, no, you only do it when the problem and the data, everything aligns perfectly, like planets alignment kind of sort of thing, that like people, first of all, like sponsorship, that there's somebody with a vision that wants to get a model, train a model analytic solution, and to make decision, to make profit, to make something, to make value in the long run, then have the data, have the people too, because a lot of people, a lot of managers, they want to implement good solutions, but the people is lacking. People that they don't like are either the SQL skills, or even the most important skills, from my opinion, the soft skills.
Yeah.
Really being able to talk with the tech and with the business, and having the patience, because with the business people, yeah, they gotta be talking about, oh, I had this coffee today, and I'm buying this car, and like, hey, we gotta talk about what you need, not about your life, but either people have to get loose a little bit and then say, okay, this is what we want, this is what we're looking for. But patience, patience,
Mhm.
patience to really get, and I think it's also a skill to be some sort of like a psychologist, uh, in order to get the idea from the person, and say this, okay, I know what you want, because sometimes also that's also paradox. What they think they want is not actually what they want; it's a something else. So it is a whole process, but that process is like what sometimes is time consuming, and that's the probably sometimes the most difficult, in my opinion, because yeah, people lose patience and people either wear out, and then and then whatever idea or whatever vision or whatever intent kind of spark for a bit, just went to how do you call where you store stuff? I forgot the name in English. I just forgot it. But where pirates keep their gold. How do you
Oh,
call
your
that?
treasure chest?
Yeah, 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 like that. Yeah, that. Yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah.
and I've seen so many models. I've seen so many reports. I even as a consultant too. That's also the thing. They call us. We give us our expert advice, and yeah, a month later you find out that they never took the advice. It's like,
Oh goodness,
yeah.
I definitely know that having an audit background, understanding how the processes work and suggesting more efficient ways that you should adjust your processes, and then you come back a year later and nothing was implemented, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I talked to friends from BCG and McKinsey. No, well, not. I mean, I got two friends from either of the two, and a couple of colleagues, and they tell me, yeah, yeah, we do all these nice slides, nice in-depth analysis, but you know what? They never get implemented. It's like, really, it's like, yeah, but don't tell anyone. But
Yeah.
some of them do get implemented. They tell me no. Some of them they make a great impact, but sometimes it's also about the communication too, like trust and communicating too, because it happens to be that a lot of people are in top places executively, but they're there more because of their soft skills than their math skills.
Mhm.
They know how to lead and encourage and delegate, rather than standard deviation, or regression. so and but sometimes they gotta fake it, because they gotta fake that they know regression, or they know something, and they know SQL, they know, I don't know, or data modeling, just to pretend. But sometimes, yeah, I think what my friend was telling me, people should these people, like the decision makers, they should be way more open about their lack of understanding or lack of knowledge, and be open about it and say, I don't know, can you explain this?
Yeah.
And that will build trust. That will build trust, because the people
Yeah.
explaining and the other people saying, okay, now I'm understanding, and that mutual communication or trust is paramount.
Yeah, it's a balance of like how to communicate the findings without getting too deep into the weeds, because you're
Mm-hmm.
so excited about sharing what you just spent hours upon hours doing, but they don't necessarily want to know all of the details. They just want to know those high level results. So then it's trying to communicate those high level results also in a way that they'll resonate with them. So you have to make them relatable.
Yep. Well, the thing, and I mentioned all of this because they don't want to get into the weeds, but they do ask, "How do you get to that number?" And then
Uh,
you have to explain. See, so you always go back to the whole thing of explaining. Okay, so this calculation, and how do you get that calculation? And then okay, can you send me the spreadsheet, and I'll get back to you, something like that.
But does that only happen when they don't like the numbers? Because when they like the
Yep.
numbers, they're like, yeah, sure, let's go. This is good. But if you don't like the numbers, then they're like, how did you calculate that?
Yes, exactly. I guess. Oh my God, that is such a confirmation bias because yeah, when the numbers are not aligned to their whole expectation, then they start asking. Yeah, that's a coincidence. I mean, that is true though. That is true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when the numbers are negative, oh, like are you summing this line, and are you also summing this, and are you also summing these products that we sold in order to sort of decrease the variation? Yeah, I've seen that too. Like, are you assuming this too? uh, and yeah, and that's the other thing with dashboards I came to know with building stuff. And it's funny. I mean, this one's very funny because I have built dashboards in Excel. You see my posts and all that, and 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 I I kind of not, I don't want to say competed, but there was other people who were trying to sell Tableau and Click to the company that I was working for. Click, kind of did it, and Click is awesome. Click has this associative model and
Mm-hmm.
technology, really awesome. And then came the dashboard thing, and the person told me, "Hey, they made these dashboards. I saw it, and I was like, hey, nice. Okay, you can do this. Click this, and it filters this. But actually, this is not what I want. What I want is this. So maybe let's export the let's export the data and rebuild it in Excel." So I'm like, oh man, but that's not the whole purpose. The whole purpose is to have the dashboard with Click, and it's like, oh yeah, but if I call these guys, they're not gonna pick up. It's like, oh man, but you gotta call them. And then he tells me, okay, but if they pick up, they're gonna charge me, I don't know how many dollars to make
Yeah.
it. And like, oh wow, really? So I mean, it's funny. Like, okay, so I mean, Excel ends up being kind of like your last option sometimes for some folks. So yeah,
This is very
yeah.
true. So you were talking about at the beginning of your career when you were the business analyst and you moved because your colleague had left the company and you were a little bit nervous to move into that position. What did you do to kind of like learn what you needed to learn in that new position? What were your, I guess, go-to resources for learning?
YouTube
Okay.
and W3 schools. I don't know if you know them. Yeah,
They're
W3
so good.
schools.
They're
Yeah,
so good.
yeah, it's so good, right? I mean, that's how I learned SQL. Theoretically, YouTube, of course, watching countless of hours of YouTube. Oh, I was consuming YouTube like until 3 a.m. in the morning. I was watching Mike Gervin from Excel is Fun. Really like, and the thing is like, I watched the videos maybe until 12 midnight, the ones that I needed to watch because it kind of related to what I was needing to know. But then I stay until 3 a.m. because he's very enthusiastic on how he teaches. Hey, you can do this, and you can also do this, and like you get like stuck, and you're like, okay, I'll watch one more, and then hours gone by. So reading, W3 school, and lots of YouTube. Yeah, lots
Mhm.
of YouTube. Yeah,
Lots of
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah. I wasn't trained with Excel in college, so that's the other paradox too. We go into college. Now, I'm assuming nowadays, now there's gotta be a course, just one course for the whole journey in college to learn in Excel. I guess, if if maybe,
I don't
but I
know
don't
what
think so.
exists
Yeah.
because I'm under the assumption that it's no longer taught, but I got Excel certified in high school. So I don't know what's out there these days.
Well, even if you go to the core SQL, that should be actually like actually, in my opinion, I think for anybody studying marketing, economics, I think SQL, yeah, for sure, and then Excel, maybe, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe the two. But I think it just based on the fact that everything is data. Our
Yeah.
phone are taking data. Yeah, our laptops are producing data.
Mm-hmm.
Us consuming TikTok is producing data.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Internet of Things producing data too.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. But at the end, the decision makers, the ones that are making decisions based on data driven decision making, that sometimes I hear it. Yeah, I feel like to this day, I feel like for sure 90% of all companies out there in the world are making decisions based on data, but yeah, the data to back it up, but also mostly on gut feeling. Yeah, yeah,
I Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a good
Even
point.
e-
It's a spicy take right there.
no, no, I'm for sure. I have talked to people and managers, even a major oil company that and I cannot say his name because it can get into trouble. I know this is going public, but like I asked the person, really? Like you guys made your projections with Excel? It's like, yeah, 15-year projections, like with Excel.
Oh
I'm like, I was
wow.
thinking you're gonna, I don't know, I was thinking you were gonna show me, something way more sophisticated, like maybe some R model or I don't know, maybe something MATLAB, maybe SAS used for this, but no, he told me like no, we just did it in Excel because we have the data there,
It all
and
wraps back around to having trust. Trust in the
exactly,
data.
yeah, yeah. I did find out though that the reason also why it was Excel, it was because the person who made the add-in, who kind of help out to throw those numbers into another program that will make that forecasting more sophisticated, that left out, became a
Oh.
consultant. So there was no liaison or the patch between that to the other thing, and that's why they
Mm.
say we're gonna just rely with what we're getting from Excel. So it's like, wow, it's interesting. I mean, the data space is like really is very competitive, but it's like there's a short supply for data professionals, and for the as more advanced you get, more professional, more expert or a specialist. Yeah, I mean, it's even harder for companies to obtain those. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Well, Carlos, do you have any final words of encouragement or recommendations for the listeners out there?
Yeah. If you're gonna get into the data space, learn. I think SQL, because SQL kind of leads you to know the database structures. How data needs to be put in order to be exploited. Or in order to be tortured. uh, and then Excel is a perfect learning tool to kind of understand those concepts, because you can put a table and resemble a table and resemble a database and resemble a foreign key with a primary key. So Excel as a learning tool is perfect. It's not going to be the ends to the means, but paradoxically, maybe most of the time, yes, because you will notice that managers love their export to Excel feature. So, but SQL, SQL is paramount. Yeah, SQL
Mm-hmm.
is the one that kind of gives you a solid foundation to how data needs to be sort of managed, so then you can do many many things. And then Excel, and then never stop learning. I mean, there's a lot of content out there. YouTube, uh, mostly, well, YouTube, because is where you find the longer videos. On TikTok, you might learn something here and there, but they're only 1 minute, right? Instagram, same thing. And now I think Instagram can do longer videos. I'm not sure, but yeah. The now I would say now be cautious though, because don't be aware that you might get overwhelmed, because now there's so much great content out there that you're gonna have to kind of like develop a critical eye on what you should be consuming priority, and from what channels and from who kind of like you kind of like listening to, learning from. Also that's important to kind of like develop a critical eye, because a lot of people explain the same thing, but sometimes you don't tune in, or you don't get hooked, or you just don't like the person, or maybe the accent, or whatever. So yeah, because there's a lot of content. Yeah, yeah.
There is a lot of content.
Yeah, there's a lot of content. Yeah.
Well, if any of the listeners out there have any questions for you, where can they find and or follow you?
LinkedIn. So LinkedIn and YouTube, but my name is not on the name of the YouTube. So LinkedIn is more than perfect. And you can message me with a request or anything. Just message me, and yeah, gladly to answer and reply.
I'll provide a link to your YouTube in the show notes.
No, thank you, Monica, and thank you for
Yeah.
having me. Actually, and
Absolutely.
I'm
Thank
glad.
you for coming on the show.
No, thank you,
And as always, folks, happy learning.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.